So, just to preface this review, you're gonna think I'm talking spoilers. In a way, I am, but not really. I don't consider this to be a spoiler, because I often don't talk spoilers, and if I thought this was a spoiler, I would have made this review later, because I don't want to break my no spoiler streak for a while. What you guys might think is the big twist is that the Nazis lost World War II. Whoa! Whoa, what a shocker. I can't believe I just spoiled that for you. Whoa, that was crazy. I can't believe this twist. It was shocking to me. It was more shocking than the ending to Titanic. I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but don't get too attached to the boat, wink wink. Jojo Rabbit was directed by Taika Waititi. It stars Roman Griffin Davis as Jojo Betzler, a 10-year-old Nazi who joins the Hitler Youth and imagines Adolf Hitler as his best friend. Eventually, his nationalistic political ideology is challenged when he finds that his mother is hiding a Jewish girl named Elsa, played by Thomasin McKenzie, in their walls. I absolutely love Jojo Rabbit. It is one of my favorite movies of 2019, which is the year it was released. Obviously, I liked Parasite much better, but I still really find Jojo Rabbit entertaining, both as a comedy and as a film. A good ranking of how much I liked Jojo Rabbit compared to the other movies from 2019 is that my top 3 movies of 2019, from third to first, are Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Jojo Rabbit, and Parasite. Taika Waititi also directed an MCU movie, or Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, 2 years before Jojo Rabbit, called Thor Ragnarok. You probably know the movie. I like it when a director who directed for the MCU makes a standalone film after making an MCU movie, because they know how to work little details into their film to hint at things we have to gather on our own. The MCU does that a lot. They make references to other MCU films to subtly hint at what's coming or how certain characters have developed. An example of Waititi working this storytelling mechanic into Jojo Rabbit is that imaginary Hitler constantly is offering Jojo cigarettes, but Hitler hated smoking. Or another example is that imaginary Hitler is seen eating large chunks of meat, usually from fictitious animals, but Hitler was a vegetarian. So Waititi is trying to hint at how little Jojo actually knows about the person he idolizes, the person who he thinks is his best friend. This ultimately contributes to the whole idea that the youth of Nazi Germany were brainwashed to see Hitler different than how everyone else saw him then and how we see him now. There's another use of this storytelling technique involving shoes. This is a good example of great direction. The use of shoes in this movie was incredible to watch because we see ingenious ways of Waititi hinting towards certain implications, as well as really important symbolic character arcs. All the performances in Jojo Rabbit were good. Scarlett Johansson as Jojo's mom was surprisingly the weakest performance of the entire movie. She was good, but she didn't really bring anything as special to the screen as everyone else did. Thomasin McKenzie and Roman Griffin Davis as Elsa and Jojo had incredible on-screen chemistry, and alone they were great as well. Specifically, Roman Griffin Davis was incredible, which is amazing to think about because this is, I think, his debut role, but I really liked him in this role. I think I might compare Roman Griffin Davis as Jojo to Macaulay Culkin. Maybe Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone. Maybe Home Alone, but probably Uncle Buck. I'm saying he was good. I'm saying he was good in here. And usually I don't like Rebel Wilson that much, but I found this to be her most entertaining role since 2012, all the way back with the first Pitch Perfect. Oh, and by the way, Alfie Allen, Theon Greyjoy himself, is in this movie, and he's pretty funny. Taika Waititi played Hitler, and he played him in such a hysterical way that he was probably the funniest character in this movie. I was kind of worried that Waititi would go over the top because you'd have to try really hard and have a really great script to make your audience forget that they're laughing at the worst and most evil person in history. But Waititi played Hitler just to the right extent of wacky to be funny, but not over the top or offensive or facetious. And say what you will about Sam Rockwell, but he was great in this movie as a character named Captain Klenzendorf. I honestly believe that he was probably the best actor in the entire movie. Even and especially in his final moments in the movie, where most actors would slack off, not my man Sam. My man Sam was still doing great. Round of applause for Sam Rockwell, because apparently he didn't win the Oscar. Good job, Sam Rockwell. He was great in this movie, by the way. He was great. I really didn't expect this movie to be so darn heartwarming. There's this coming-of-age part, and there's this touching relationship between Jojo and Elsa. There's also a mother-son dynamic that was just so uplifting to see. A certain scene towards the end involving the Allies' victory. I won't spoil it, but I think I might be allergic to this movie because my eyes get really watery, specifically towards that scene. If you're familiar with Wes Anderson's movies, you'd notice some parallels and pastiches to Wes Anderson's work in Jojo Rabbit. In both Wes Anderson's movies and Jojo Rabbit, there's idiosyncratic, symmetrical wide shots using a beautiful pastel color palette. Another parallel is how there are precocious children and adults who act like children. In Wes Anderson's movies, this is natural. There's no cause or explanation for why this happens. In Jojo Rabbit, this is to highlight the failure of Nazism. The adults act like children because those are the only people who are siding with the Nazis. And the ones that act like adults aren't Nazis and are killed by Nazis. The children act like adults because they have to. There aren't any adults who act like adults, and the adults that are there act like children. And so they have to fight wars with the adults that act like children. This ultimately creates a paradox where children act like adults and model themselves based on the adults, but the adults they model themselves on act like children. And so the children continue to act like children. Going into Jojo Rabbit, I didn't expect to have any serious discussions about it, but I ended up having a pretty insightful discussion on Jojo Rabbit with my uncle. One thing he told me about is the idea of cognitive dissonance and the way Jojo Rabbit presents it. Cognitive dissonance is when somebody believes two things that contradict each other. An example of this would be if you believe that we should stop climate change, but you drive around in a monster truck that lets out a lot of exhaust. So the way that Jojo Rabbit presents cognitive dissonance is that Jojo is a Nazi, but he's hiding a Jew from the Nazis. That's what I love about this movie. How Jojo isn't actually a Nazi, but he thinks he is because he wants to fit in. But the people who he chooses to fit in with are the worst people on earth. It's shocking that in this day and age, this wasn't done in bad taste. There are two different scenes that in and of themselves say Heil Hitler probably more than any movie, but it's so obvious when they make fun of Nazism, so you can definitely tell when to laugh and when they're joking. I've watched this movie about 50 times, and it still gets a roar of laughter out of me every time I watch it. One of Jojo's friends, Yorkie, is played by a young actor named Archie Yates, and virtually every moment he has on screen makes me just giggle. Especially in one scene involving a cannon. If you've seen the trailers, you'd know about this.
You okay? Oh, God.
This movie perfectly blends a bit of slapstick and a bit of verbal humor, which I always welcome. As far as problems go, I only had one. Sometimes this movie creates problems that it isn't actually intent on solving. In one scene, Jojo does something to Elsa that's pretty offensive and insensitive, and it's solved with the line Jew and Nazi aren't friends. Then they skip to a montage contradicting this possible conflict without any consolation to the major wrongdoing Jojo just committed. Then they do the same thing like this towards the end, but it's way more severe with a smaller consequence. They still don't even acknowledge this. I'll be giving Jojo Rabbit an A. This one really surprised me. I didn't think this would be as fantastic as it was. I strongly urge that you see this no matter what, because you'll have an exceedingly fun time. I really like Taika Waititi's filmography, and I think Jojo Rabbit might be his best film yet. But if you haven't seen his other films, Thor Ragnarok is good and one of the best MCU movies, and Hunt for the Wilder People is also incredibly good and might be my second favorite of his films. And I said I like it when an MCU director directs a standalone film after directing an MCU film, because they know how to hint at little details within their story. One of those movies was Chef by Jon Favreau, who also directed Iron Man. When you ask someone for their favorite World War II movie, I'd call it a safe bet to say it would probably be either Saving Private Ryan or Schindler's List. I agree. Those are tremendous films, both by Steven Spielberg as well. But if you want to have a little fun with a World War II movie, like you did with Jojo Rabbit, you should check out my favorite World War II movies, The Great Escape and all three of the Indiana Jones movies. There are only 3 movies to ever exist, or at least 3 good ones. There's also one that's really bad. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Sorry, did I just cough and say Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? Like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the really bad Indiana Jones movie? That's weird. One movie I haven't actually seen is Inglourious Basterds. I really want to see it. I heard it's incredible and fun. And Quentin Tarantino is one of my favorite directors of all time. How about you watch it and then tell me what I'm missing in the comments? This movie has absolutely no problem with making fun of such a sensitive issue such as Nazism. But it does this so we can remember it and to show how bad it was. The great dictator had no problem poking fun at Hitler while he was in power. I would highly recommend checking it out. Another hilarious satire is Blazing Saddles. It also pokes fun at a sensitive issue, but this time it's with racism. But it's not a racist movie. It makes fun of racism for the ridiculous and hypocrisy of it. And I also said that this is very similar to a Wes Anderson movie. Wes Anderson is my favorite director of all time. So, quickly, I'm just going to give you my ranking of Wes Anderson's movies so you know what to watch. At last place, you have Bottle Rocket. Bottle Rocket is okay. It's entertaining, but probably his lesser film. Then you got The Darjeeling Limited. I have a full review of that when I celebrated Adrian Brody's birthday. Go check that out. Next up is The Grand Budapest Hotel. I love that movie, but the reason it's ranked... Oh, wait, no, not Grand Budapest Hotel, sorry. Isle of Dogs. Isle of Dogs is okay. It's perfectly okay. Then The Grand Budapest Hotel. Grand Budapest Hotel, it's good, it's funny. It's at 4th place for me, because the third are better, but I'm not saying it's bad. Everything after Bottle Rocket, I highly recommend checking out, because they're all good past Bottle Rocket. Bottle Rocket probably being Wes Anderson's worst movie. So next up, we get to Fantastic Mr. Fox. Fantastic Mr. Fox is great. It's a great animated movie, and after I record this, I'm probably gonna go watch Fantastic Mr. Fox. So yeah, second place is Moonrise Kingdom. Phenomenal movie. If you liked Jojo Rabbit, this is the one I recommend checking out, because Moonrise Kingdom is so much like Jojo Rabbit. It treats children with respect. It doesn't treat them as dumb. It treats them as smart. It treats them as real adults. Moonrise Kingdom is one of my favorite movies. Probably my favorite rom-com. Not my favorite. It's my second favorite rom-com. And my favorite Wes Anderson movie is The Royal Tenenbaums. I have a review of The Royal Tenenbaums up. I discuss spoilers, so I'll just give you the cliff notes of it. I gave it an A+. It's my favorite Wes Anderson movie. It's great. It's a masterpiece. Everyone's good in it. Go watch all of Wes Anderson's movies. You'll love it! Well, that just about does it for my thoughts on Jojo Rabbit. Before you leave, how about you tell me your favorite satire? I have a few, so I'll talk about them quickly. The Princess Bride is a great satire of classic swashbucklers like Mark of Zorro or Errol Flynn's Adventures of Robin Hood. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is a wildly fun movie that satirizes time travel movies without all the, as Doctor Who says, I believe, timey-wimey stuff. I'm not sure. I haven't watched Doctor Who in a while. But my all-time favorite satire is a tie between Monty Python and the Holy Grail, a fantastic movie about King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table, and This Is Spinal Tap. Super fun rockumentary, or fake rockumentary, mock-you-rockumentary, mind you. After you tell me about that, you can head on out, stay safe, and watch good movies. Bye!